The Nigeria Infrastructure Development Awards hosted its second edition in Lagos, focusing on the theme Creative Options of Funding Infrastructure Development in Nigeria. Organized by the Infrastructure Development magazine, the event brought together media gurus and representatives of critical government institutions. In his opening remarks, the chairman of the awards committee, Mr Lanre Alabi, described the event as a platform designed to recognize firms and government agencies that have contributed to infrastructure development in Nigeria.
This year, NIDA will be recognizing icons in the public and private sectors who have been adjudged and proven with empirical evidences to have contributed to the development of the nation through investment and commitment to providing infrastructure. These groups, governments, organizations, and individuals have in that direction promoted better living and galvanized real sector growth of the country. In the last 1 year, through the platform of the NIDA Awards and the Infrastructure Development Magazine, we have created awareness and provided an avenue for both the public and private sectors to share ideas and best practices that have helped other economies on infrastructure development. The award forum has also been a place for agenda setting for government and venture capital to synergize.
Keynote speaker at the awards night and chairman of Proshare, Mr Olufemi Awoyemi, asserted that Nigeria needs to have an accurate data on the state of infrastructure and the funding requirements.
A number of professionals, analysts, experts, economists, and including the leading lights of the media who are here, have thrown figures around. You hear things between 160, 170, 190. Perhaps depending on the mood of the country, the figures tend to change. If such a document were to exist, we would probably have data-backed policy and technical document that would, one, provide government with a master plan for the rehabilitation of infrastructure, and most importantly, we will not be talking about an ERGP or an MTEF, but we'll be talking about the 2050 plan, because infrastructure is never a short-term idea. The second thing also is that we'll be able to provide a basis for what I call a sovereign policy position that creates the dichotomy that happens between federal, state, and local governments. The third one is that we will be able to provide a framework to distinguish between what you call bankable projects and what you call unbankable projects. Most importantly, we'll be able to identify the investment capital. Sometimes in the past, people have made a mistake to equate investing in infrastructure as the same thing as investing in fixed income where you can get returns. It doesn't work that way. So globally, the gap in infrastructural funding is actually $2.7 trillion. In the emerging markets alone, in the last 2 years, the investments that have come in maybe in the last 3-4 years, $335 billion. In Nigeria, it has been far less. Why? There are three things that I think we can call the ALS principle. One is about assets. When we talk about assets, we are talking about what you call core assets, core, and then new technology. New technology will be some green fields like solar, renewable, windmill, and what have you. And then the core assets will be your typical airports, road, ports, and bridges. Then the L part of it, which is basically about the life cycle of each one. Whether you are talking about existing projects, and in this case, you may imagine the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway for anybody who is old enough. As long as you are old, that road has always been under construction. And so you would not naturally expect that one to attract investment. And then you are talking about the other ones. But the most important one is what you call S, the sovereign. One of the greatest challenges that you find, and the biggest myth in Nigeria when we talk about infrastructure, is that people fail to understand that there is a mismatch between opportunities and capital. Capital has no sentiment. We don't have the capital. The country is not in a very strong position to be able to fund the infrastructural gap if we assume it's about 170 billion. So the critical question you want to ask is how do we intend to fund it? Well, there is nobody private going to come into Africa. Here's what investors outside the country look at when they want to fund a project for you. They understand there is a knowledge gap and the options are very limited. But they understand that the only thing you can use to fund, the major determinant is that your currency, foreign currency. The foreign money coming in to fund a local project will be in local naira, and they would have to manage the foreign currency component, so they will not do so. So there are only three models under which you can fund in a developing economy like here. One, you would have to toll, and there are only a few things you can toll. The second, you have to operate with concession. So that means the concessionaire will carry the risk and protect them. Three, you have to operate a currency regime, which may not necessarily be in your favor, but to their own advantage to protect their capital. So when you talk about investment in your roads, you don't have roads to your houses, links to your bridges, good hospitals, fine. Those are good things to have as worries, but it's not the worry of the financier. The financier worries about something called the risk return on capital. If you talk about the ports in Nigeria, the reason why people naturally move out of Nigeria is because three things. One, every ship being made right now that will be serviceable in the next 5-6 years would have to operate between 15 to 17 meter draft level. The Apapa port you have is at 12. So whether you like it or not, in the next 5 years, any new ship will not be able to come into your waterways again. So that's lockdown for you. But guess what? The new is in Djibouti and the other one in Zimbabwe, and even the one they have there is about 15 meters in Benin Republic. So that's a major challenge to start with. Secondly, port security has moved away from physical security to technology security. See, Thomas Edison did not adopt continuous improvement on the candle to discover the light bulb. He shifted from focusing on improving the efficiency of the candle and then moved towards the light bulb. That is how societies move. The third major point is this. When we built the ports in Lagos State, Nigeria was about a population of about 60 million. So in terms of goods and services to feed, let's assume 120, I'm not even talking about 200, it is on overcapacity, overstretched. It cannot function, it cannot be efficient. And so the whole purpose where I say infrastructure is about productivity is that Nigeria does not face a cash challenge, it faces a productivity challenge. And infrastructure is the critical point of it. And why is infrastructure so critical? Infrastructure is critical because one, it helps you to reduce your cost of overall production. If you can reduce your overall cost of production, it's a simple economics for your personal finances. If I'm not anymore, but if I can reduce my expenses, okay. If I can reduce that, the input cost to other people also gets reduced, so we have efficiency in the whole system. And that is why it would impact the development.
The event featured award presentations to institutions like the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, the Nigerian Communications Commission, the Central Bank of Nigeria, amongst others. Mr. Lanre Alabi speaks further on improving infrastructure funding in the country.
The government should put in place stable policies that will enable people to come and invest. Without a stable policy, people will not come and invest. Then, looking at the creative ways, the private sector can come. The public sector can also come. The government itself collects taxes. What are they using these taxes for? Are they efficiently using the money? You will see that in Nigeria, they will spend more money on recurrent expenditure than the capital expenditure. And recurrent expenditure will not give us the required development that we want. So you will see that government is carrying so much burden in terms of the overhead costs. And because of this overhead cost, they don't have enough money to go into capital expenditure. So they will need to actually look at what they are doing, look at their recurrent expenditure, and see how they can take only what they need, so that there will be enough funds for them to invest in capital expenditure. Then the entire money that we are even talking about is too small, 10 trillion naira. What is it when you convert it to dollars? Of what amount? What is the total amount that we are talking about? Big infrastructure projects that require billions of dollars. You know, so we need people to bring funds. Then you need to invite them by putting a stable policy, so that if a government comes down, puts a policy in place, and people come, and the next day you change the policy, and then they lose money, so they won't come again.
A major takeaway from the NIDA Awards ceremony is the need for critical thinking in the approach by the government and the private sector in exploring creative options for bridging the infrastructure financing gap in the country.